My employment contract contained an overlooked provision, a repurchase clause for my startup at the original sale price if terminated. After my dismissal, my attorney mailed them a $1.00 check and a formal notice. I didn't see the ambush coming. Not until the boardroom doors swung shut with a thud that echoed like a gavel. The air was thick with the sterile chill of overpriced air conditioning, the kind that screams corporate excess. Nathan Cole, our CEO, leaned back in his leather chair, his square jaw set in a smug line. Olivia Reed, the CMO who'd rebranded our AI startup into a circus, tapped her manicured nails on the table, and there I was, Emily Harper, CTO and founder, staring down the barrel of my own execution. Armed security guards, 2 of them, faces carved from stone, flanked the exit. My heart slammed against my ribs, but I kept my face blank. They thought they could erase me. They had no idea I'd already written the clause that would burn their empire to ash. 9 years ago, I was nobody, just a 26-year-old coder in a Capitol Hill loft that smelled like damp drywall and desperation. My laptop, a refurbished Dell that sparked when I plugged it in, was my only weapon. I lived on instant ramen and black coffee, the kind you buy in bulk from Costco because it's cheaper than dreams. My neighbors screamed about unpaid bills through paper-thin walls, and my idea of luxury was a hot shower that lasted 5 minutes. But I had an idea, a predictive AI algorithm that could read data like a psychic reads tea leaves. I called it Sentinel. It was my baby, my rebellion against a world that told me I'd never make it out of that crumbling loft. One night, a storm tore through Seattle, knocking out power across the block. I worked by candlelight, my laptop wheezing, as rain battered the windows like it wanted in. I was debugging Sentinel, line by line, my eyes burning from a 48-hour coding binge. At 3:17 a.m., it clicked. The algorithm didn't just work, it sang. It predicted a data breach for a tech giant, a $2 billion zero-cent scandal waiting to happen. I sent the report to their CISO at 4 a.m., half expecting to be ignored. By noon, their CEO was on the phone, begging for a demo. By week's end, they'd wired me enough to keep my lights on for a year. That was the moment I knew Sentinel wasn't just code. It was power. The loft couldn't contain us for long. Within months, I'd hired a ragtag crew of coders, brilliant misfits who thrived on chaos and caffeine. Extension cords snaked across the floor, a fire hazard we laughed off because we were too busy building something unstoppable. Our coffee budget dwarfed the rent, and we'd argue over algorithms until dawn, our voices drowning out the neighbors' vape-fueled rants. We called the whiteboard Biggie, a chipped, smudged beast that held our first sketches of Sentinel's architecture. It was our altar, our battle map. We'd scribble ideas on it, erase them, fight over them, and sometimes, at 3 a.m., draw stupid cartoons to keep from losing our minds. Then came the viral surge. A glitch in Sentinel's public demo misfired, spitting out a prediction that looked like a global cyber attack warning. It wasn't just a misparsed dataset, but the internet lost its mind. X lit up with conspiracy theories, and suddenly we were trending. Seattle's startup predicts apocalypse screamed the headlines. Venture capitalists started circling like sharks, their emails dripping with promises. I ignored them, until a Silicon Valley firm, Apex Ventures, made an offer too big to dismiss. They promised funding, global reach, and, most importantly, control. "We want to amplify your vision, Emily," their CEO crooned. I believed them. God, I was naive. I sold the company for $1, not because I'm some altruistic fool, but because the deal was a masterpiece. My lawyer, Lucas Grant, a wiry ex-Marine with a knack for legalese, structured it to give me equity, influence, and a hidden grenade, Section 17B. If I was ever fired without cause, I could buy back the company for the same price. $1. "They'll never see it," he said, his eyes glinting. I laughed, a sharp, reckless sound. "They won't even read it." And they didn't. Not Nathan Cole, the ex-Wall Street bro Apex installed as CEO, not Olivia Reed, the CMO, who thought data was a dirty word, and definitely not the board, too busy counting their projected billions to notice the fine print. The first warning came 6 months after the sale. I was in the server room at 2 a.m., tweaking Sentinel's neural net, when the air turned acrid. Smoke curled from a rack, then flames. I grabbed a fire extinguisher, but the blaze spread too fast, licking at my arm as I stumbled back. The sprinklers didn't kick on. Later, we found they'd been disabled. I escaped with a singed sleeve and a racing pulse, but the damage was done. Half our data backups were fried. The fire marshal called it an electrical fault. I called it sabotage. Someone wanted me scared. I started locking my office door. As CTO, I tried to keep the ship steady. My team was still mine, coders who'd bleed for Sentinel, who'd stayed through the Apex takeover because they believed in me. We pushed boundaries, building predictive models that could forecast market crashes or detect fraud before it happened. But Nathan and Olivia had other plans. They didn't want innovation. They wanted Instagram filters for our tech. Vibe alignment sessions replaced our brainstorms, filled with marketing drones who'd never written a line of code. Engineers were banned, told our energy was too intense. Olivia, in her $1,200 0-cents blazers, preached about aesthetic synergy, while Nathan nodded like he understood. My ideas, hard-won, data-driven, were dismissed as founder nostalgia. They started calling me the visionary, a polite way of saying you're irrelevant. The second danger hit on I-5. I was test-driving a company car, a sleek Tesla rigged with our AI navigation prototype. It was supposed to be a PR stunt, proof of Sentinel's real-world applications. Halfway through downtown, the car went rogue. The accelerator jammed, the speedometer climbing past 90. I yanked at the wheel, but it wouldn't respond. Skyscrapers blurred outside as I screamed commands at the AI, my voice cracking. At the last second, I kicked open the door and rolled onto the shoulder, gravel tearing my jacket. The car slammed into a barrier, erupting in sparks. Hackers, the police said, though they never found proof. I knew better. Someone wanted me dead. Iggy was the next casualty. That whiteboard, our soul, was hauled out during one of Olivia's minimalism audits. She called it cluttered chaos, said it projected founder trauma. I watched them drag it to a dumpster, my throat tight. The team was gutted. Ethan, a junior dev who'd once spilled Red Bull on Biggie and cried about it, looked like he'd lost a parent. That same week, Nathan slashed R&D by 80% to fund a rebrand campaign featuring a cartoon owl named Trusty. Trusty for an AI that could save billions. I wanted to scream. Instead, I started taking notes. Mia Chen, my lead engineer, cornered me in the break room. Her eyes were sharp, her voice low. "I'm getting offers, Emily. Double my salary. Amazon, Google, you name it. What's happening upstairs?" I didn't lie. "They're killing us," I said. "But I'm watching." She nodded, but I saw the doubt. The team was fraying and I was losing them. Clients, too, started drifting. Companies I'd personally onboarded, fintech unicorns, healthcare giants, began routing calls through Nathan's lackeys. Middle managers trained to smile and stall. I was being erased. One email at a time. The board interrogation came out of nowhere. A 7 a.m. summons, no agenda, just a conference room with Nathan, Olivia, and 3 board members staring me down like I was on trial. "We've had reports," Nathan said, his voice oily, "that you're leaking trade secrets to undermine the rebrand." I laughed, a bitter bark. You think I'd tank my own company? They didn't flinch. For 3 hours they grilled me, emails, server logs, even my personal X account. Olivia slid a printout across the table. A screenshot of a private chat where I'd vented about Trusty. This feels disloyal, she said, her smile venomous. I walked out shaking, my career hanging by a thread. Then came the coffee. It was a Monday, a strategy meeting with the product team. I'd just taken a sip from my mug when an intern, Jenny, grabbed hers from the tray. She collapsed mid-sentence, foam at her mouth, her body convulsing. The room erupted, screams, chairs scraping, someone calling 911. I froze, the mug still in my hand. Poison, the lab confirmed later, meant for me. Jenny survived, barely, but the message was clear. Whoever was after me wasn't playing game. I started carrying my own thermos. Nathan's layoffs hit like a guillotine. He called it streamlining, but it was a purge. Coders I'd hired, people who'd built Sentinel from nothing, were escorted out by security, their badges confiscated. The engineering floor turned into a ghost town, desks empty, post-its curling in the silence. I tried to fight it, storming Nathan's office with retention data, but he just smirked. You're too emotional, Emily. This is about scalability, not sentiment. Olivia, sipping a latte, chimed in. We're a rocket ship now, not a garage band. I wanted to slap the cup out of her hand. That night, I pulled the contract from my safe. Section 17B glowed under the lamplight, unchanged, unbreakable. Lucas had texted earlier. Still valid, say the word. I didn't reply, not yet, but I felt it, a feral, ancient thing waking in my gut. They were coming for me, and I'd be ready. Ethan, the intern turned dev, who'd once rewired our server rack at 4 a.m., knocked on my office door the next day. He didn't sit, just stood there, hands shaking. They've got a list, he whispered. Layoffs. You're on it. They want you gone before the investor call, to show they don't need you. I looked at him, my voice steady. Thank you, Ethan. He nodded and bolted, like he'd just confessed to a crime. The parking garage incident was the breaking point. I was leaving late, the lot empty except for my Prius. A figure stepped from the shadows. Tall, hooded, his voice a low growl. Back off, Harper, or you're done. He held a knife, the blade catching the fluorescent light. I froze, my keys digging into my palm. Who sent you? I asked, my voice sharper than I felt. He didn't answer, just stepped closer. I bolted, my sneakers slapping concrete, and locked myself in the car. He vanished, but the message lingered. I drove home with my hands trembling, checking my rear view every second. The crisis drill was their next move. A Friday, 6 p.m., another vague calendar invite. I walked into the boardroom, and the door locked behind me. Nathan was there, alone, his tie loosened, a glass of scotch in his hand. We're simulating a breach, he said, but his eyes said something else. For an hour he paced, throwing veiled threats. My obsolescence, my resistance to progress. The air felt heavy, like he was sizing me up for a coffin. When the door finally opened, Olivia was outside, smiling like she'd won a bet. I didn't sleep that night. I drafted the check at 2 a.m. $1, blue ink, no flourish. Pay to the order of Apex Ventures. Memo. Section 17B, buyback. I tucked it in the safe with the contract, next to a photo of the original team. 5 of us, grinning like idiots around Biggie in that freezing loft. We'd been invincible then. I wasn't ready to pull the trigger, but I was close. Something was coming, and I'd be the one to fire first. The final straw was the HR invite. Tuesday, 4:30 p.m., labeled transition. No subject, no context, just a block of time that screamed execution. I walked in wearing my best blazer, hair pulled back, face set like I was going to war. Nathan and Olivia sat side by side, prom king and queen of a corporate nightmare. The HR rep, Karen, clutched a folder like it might bite. Nathan spoke first, his voice dripping with fake regret. "We valued your contributions, Emmeline, but we're moving in a new direction." Olivia jumped in, her smile plastic. "This is about growth, not endings. Your legacy lives on." Legacy? Like I was already dead. They slid the termination papers across the table, severance, an NDA, even a pre-written LinkedIn post with hashtags like new chapter. Karen cleared her throat. "We'll need your badge, laptop, and phone." They didn't even let me go back to my office. 2 security guards, one with a scar across his cheek, met me at the door. The entire floor watched as they marched me to the elevator. My team's faces pale behind glass walls. I handed over my devices, my badge, my fob. The scarred guard pressed the button, and as the doors closed, I saw Olivia laughing, her head tilted toward Nathan. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went home, made tea, and opened the safe. The check was still there, crisp in its envelope. Lucas was waiting for my call. "Now?" he asked, his voice steady. "Now," I said. We didn't need a cover letter, just the letter. 4 lines, one that mattered. "I am exercising my right under Section 17B. Lucas sealed it, dropped it in a FedEx bin, and by morning it was en route. My hands were steady, my breath even. They thought they'd buried me with a calendar invite. They didn't know they'd just sold me back my empire for $1. I poured a whiskey and stared at the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle glowing like a promise. Nathan and Olivia were probably toasting their victory, oblivious to the bomb ticking in their inbox. Let them laugh. Let them think they'd won, because when that envelope landed, when the board saw my name on that check, the game would flip. I'd built this company from a sparking laptop in a storm. I'd survived fire, hacks, poison, and knives. And I'd be damned if I let a couple of corporate vultures steal it. This was my story, my code, my revenge. And it was just getting started. The FedEx truck pulled away from my Belltown apartment at 6:47 a.m., carrying a single envelope that held my future. Inside, a $1.00 check and 4 lines of text that would detonate Nathan Cole's smug empire. I stood on the balcony, the Seattle dawn painting the Puget Sound in streaks of gold, and sipped whiskey from a chipped mug. My hands didn't shake, but my pulse thrummed like a live wire. They'd humiliated me, broadcast my firing on Slack like a public execution, but they didn't know the war had just begun. I'd built Sentinel from a sparking laptop in a storm-ravaged loft. I'd survived fire, hacks, and poison, and now, with 1 piece of paper, I was taking it all back. The HR trap had been a masterclass in cruelty. That cryptic calendar invite, transition no details, had landed in my inbox like a guillotined shadow. I'd walked into the boardroom at 4:30 p.m., my blazer crisp, my expression carved from granite. Nathan and Olivia sat like corporate royalty, their smiles practiced, predatory. Karen, the HR rep, fidgeted with a manila folder, her eyes darting to the 2 armed guards by the door. Nathan's voice was syrupy, fake regret dripping from every word. "We've valued your contributions, Emily, but we're moving in a new direction." Olivia leaned in, her $900.00 scarf catching the light. "This is about growth, not endings. Your legacy lives on." Legacy. The word was a slap, implying I was already a footnote. Then came the public humiliation. Nathan clicked a remote, and a Slack channel flared to life on the conference room screen. Company updates. Live to all 300 employees. My termination was being streamed. A corporate crucifixion. "Emily Harper's tenure as CTO has concluded," Nathan announced, his voice booming through the office speakers. We thank her for her foundational role and wish her well." Olivia typed a clapping emoji in the chat, and a few sycophants followed suit. My team, Ethan, Mia, the coders who'd bled for Sentinel, watched in stunned silence, their faces visible through the glass walls. I didn't flinch. I flipped through the termination papers, severance, an NDA, a pre-written LinkedIn post with hashtags like "moving forward," and signed nothing. Karen stammered, "We'll need your badge, laptop and phone." The guard stepped forward, their holsters glinting. I handed over my devices, my badge, my fob, and walked out, their boots echoing behind me. The armed escort was a spectacle. The entire engineering floor froze as I was marched to the elevator, my team's eyes burning with shock and rage. Ethan, the kid who'd once rewired our server rack at 4 a.m., clenched his fists, his knuckles white. Mia Chen, my lead engineer, mouthed, "We're with you." I kept my head high, my steps measured. The scarred guard pressed the elevator button, and as the doors slid shut, I caught Olivia's laugh, sharp and victorious through the glass. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I drove home, the Seattle skyline blurring through my windshield, and poured whiskey. Lucas was waiting for my call. "Now?" he asked, his voice a low growl. "Now," I said. The envelope was sealed, the check inside. $1, blue ink, my signature like a blade. By morning it was gone, hurtling toward Apex Ventures' legal team. They thought they'd won. They were about to choke on their own arrogance. The paparazzi swarm hit as I stepped outside my apartment, a high-pressure nightmare orchestrated by Olivia. A dozen cameras flashed, their lenses glinting like vultures' eyes. "Emily Harper, did you embezzle millions from Apex?" a reporter shouted, shoving a mic in my face. "Is that why you were fired?" another yelled. I froze, the accusations slamming into me like a rogue wave. Olivia had tipped them off, spinning a lie to bury me in scandal. Pedestrians gawked, phones raised as I pushed through the crowd, my heart pounding. "No comment," I snapped, ducking into a coffee shop. The barista, a kid with a nose ring, stared like I was a fugitive. I locked myself in the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and called Lucas. "They're trying to destroy me," I said, my voice low. "Let them try," he replied. "The check's in play. Stay sharp." I hung up, my reflection in the cracked mirror showing a woman who'd survived worse, as wasn't breaking now. Back home, I poured another whiskey, the bottle's weight grounding me. The buyback plan was in motion, but I needed to know what I was up against. I pulled the contract from my safe, Section 17B glowing under the lamplight. If terminated without cause, Emily Harper may repurchase the company for the original consideration amount, $1.00, within 30 days. Lucas had confirmed its validity, but a new question gnawed at me. Why had Nathan's assistant, a nervous kid named Tyler, been shredding documents the night I was fired? I'd seen him through the office window, hunched over a machine, his hands shaking. What was Nathan hiding? The curiosity burned, a loose thread in a tapestry of betrayal. I texted Lucas. "Check Tyler's activity. Something's off." He replied with a thumbs up. The game was on. Apex's corporate chaos erupted by noon. Sophia Lane, their general counsel, called an emergency meeting after the FedEx envelope landed. I wasn't there, but Lucas had a source. A paralegal who owed him a favor. Sophia, a woman who spoke in clipped syllables like every word cost $500.00, laid it out. Section 17B was enforceable. Worse, Apex had never fully merged my startup's legal entity in Delaware. It was still alive, and I owned the controlling share. Nathan laughed, his Wall Street bravado unshaken. "It's a bluff," he said, leaning back in his chair. "That clause is ancient. No judge would uphold it." Sophia's voice was ice. "There's no expiration language, Nathan, and you fired her without cause. She's not bluffing, she's winning." The room went silent, the board's faces paling as the truth sank in. They'd handed me the keys to their kingdom. Nathan's arrogance was his undoing. He stormed out, convinced he could bully his way through. "She's a nobody," he told Olivia, loud enough for the paralegal to overhear. "She'll fold." Olivia nodded, her smile brittle, but doubt flickered in her eyes. They didn't know I'd survived a tampered elevator just days earlier. I'd snuck into the old office at midnight, using an old keycard to retrieve a hard drive with Sentinel's original code. The elevator lurched as I rode up, then plummeted 3 floors before screeching to a stop. I gripped the railing, my breath shallow, the cables groaning above. When the doors opened, I ran. The hard drive clutched to my chest. Sabotage, again. Someone knew I was digging. The danger was real, but it only sharpened my resolve. The client revolt hit like a tsunami. By Wednesday, a fintech unicorn, our biggest account, froze their $50 million 0-cents contract, citing leadership instability. A healthcare conglomerate followed, their CEO emailing me directly. "We trusted you, Emily, not the owl mascot." I replied, cryptic but deliberate, "Stand by, big changes coming." The whispers spread, and by Thursday 3 more clients pulled back, their ex-posts hinting at distrust in Nathan's vision. Mia Chen, my lead engineer, lit the match. Her viral ex-post, "We built Sentinel for Emily, not Trusty," racked up 100,000 reposts in 24 hours, tanking Apex's stock by 12%. The internet erupted, memes of Trusty in a dumpster flooding every tech forum. Nathan's PR team scrambled, but the damage was done. I watched from my apartment, a grim smile spreading. They'd underestimated my team's loyalty and the internet's wrath. The sham lawsuit was their next desperate swing. A subpoena arrived Friday morning, accusing me of sabotaging Apex's servers to destabilize the rebrand. The allegations were laughable: planted logs, fabricated timestamps, but the intent was clear: tie me up in court, drain my resources, scare me off. I met Lucas at a dive bar in Pioneer Square, the kind of place where coders and fishermen drink side by side. He slid a beer across the table, his eyes steady. "They're panicking," he said. "This lawsuit's a smokescreen. Sophia's prepping a countersuit to enforce 17B. I nodded, my jaw tight. "What about Tyler's documents?" Lucas leaned in. "He's gone. Quit last night. Left a post-it. I'm sorry." "We're digging." The mystery deepened. What was in those shredded files? A financial scandal? A cover-up? The curiosity gnawed. But I had bigger fights. The team reconvened like soldiers after a rout. Ethan emailed first, his resume attached with a single line, "I kept the receipts, let's rebuild." Mia followed, her subject line blunt, "Half the NLP team's ready to jump, say when." Even Sarah from accounting, who'd once sent me a passive-aggressive budget spreadsheet, forwarded a revised P&L with a note. "Nathan's a clown, I'm in. I leased a new headquarters in Belltown. 5th floor, glass walls, fiber internet, no motivational posters." The space screamed agility, not aesthetics. We held our first war room that weekend, 10 of us around a folding table, pizza boxes stacked like battlements, a new whiteboard. Biggie 2 bore a single phrase in red marker: "Get the engine running." Ethan brought donuts. Mia brought data. I brought rage. We weren't just rebuilding, we were avenging. The locked briefcase was the next puzzle. During my elevator scare, I'd glimpsed it in Nathan's old office, tucked under his desk, padlocked and scuffed. Why leave it behind? What was inside? Contracts, bribes, proof of his sabotage? I sent Ethan to scout, posing as a delivery guy. He texted back, "Briefcase gone." Janitor saw Olivia take it. The plot thickened. Olivia, with her polished facade, was scrambling to cover tracks. I didn't know what she was hiding, but I'd find out. The curiosity burned hotter, a clue to Nathan's unraveling empire. The media frenzy exploded Monday morning. TechCrunch ran a front-page exposé, "The Dollar Empress: How Emily Harper Reclaimed Her AI Empire." The article detailed Section 17B, the $1.00 check, and Apex's legal blunder, painting me as a David toppling Goliath. X lit up, the dollar queen trending globally. Olivia's response was a LinkedIn manifesto titled "Leading Without Ego," a 2,000-word screed about toxic founders. With a stock photo of a sunrise, it backfired spectacularly, the comment section a slaughterhouse of snark. "Nice owl, Olivia," one user wrote, with 5,000 likes. She disabled comments within an hour. Nathan, meanwhile, tried a sponsored podcast, droning about innovation synergies. Nobody listened. His stock plummeted another 8%, and the board called an emergency meeting. Nathan's collapse was poetic. His PR stunts, press releases, a desperate rebrand of Trusty as Trusty 2 flopped like a bad reboot. By Tuesday, he resigned, his memo a masterpiece of self-delusion. "I believe in Apex's vision, even if others lack the foresight to see it." Translation: "I got played, and I'm out." The board implosion followed, half its members quitting after leaked emails exposed their negligence. One email from a board member to Nathan read, "You said the contract was clean. Fix this." There was no fixing it. I'd won, but the war wasn't over. The hostile takeover bid came Wednesday. A high-pressure curveball from a rival firm, Nexus AI. Their CEO, a slick Brit named Gavin Holt, offered $50 million, 0 cents, to buy my new venture before it launched. "Join us, Emily," he said over Zoom, his accent clipped. "Why fight when you can rule?" I saw through it, a ploy to bury Sentinel to keep me from exposing Apex's rot. I leaned into the camera, my voice steel. "I don't sell out twice." I hung up, but the pressure lingered. Nexus had deep pockets and deeper connections. Were they behind the elevator hack, the poisoned coffee? The curiosity gnawed, a shadow at the edge of my victory. The rebrand was our defiance. We unveiled a new logo, a blazing phoenix clutching a dollar bill, its wings sharp as vengeance. The tagline wrote itself, "Back by demand, built to last." 3 ex-clients, fintech, healthcare, and a retail giant, invested $10 million, 0 cents, in our relaunch, bypassing VCs. Their trust was my fuel, but a new mystery emerged. An anonymous investor had wired $5 million, 0 cents, no strings attached. Who were they? A former ally? A silent partner with their own agenda? Lucas was digging, but the trail was cold. The curiosity burned, a spark in the chaos. The industry shockwaves hit Friday. Forbes ran the $1.00 clause that toppled a tech titan, cementing my legend. The article quoted Mia. "Emily's the only one who believed in us. Apex forgot that." I framed it, hung it next to Big E too, but the real coup was the TEDx keynote. The original speaker, a crypto bro, bailed to find himself in Tulum, and the organizer called me. "Your story's electric," she said. "We want you." I accepted, my pulse racing. This wasn't just a speech. It was my declaration of war. The keynote was Saturday, a 2,000-strong crowd in a Seattle auditorium, lanyards and laptops as far as the eye could see. The lights dimmed, my name in bold white text. "The price of forgetting, the fine print." I walked on stage, slow, deliberate, my blazer swapped for a black leather jacket. No smile, not yet. I told them about the loft, the storm, the $2 billion 0 cent save. I told them about the fire that singed my arm, the hacked car, the poisoned coffee, the knife in the garage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then I told them about Section 17B, the $1.00 check, the clause Nathan never saw. A guy in the front row whispered, "Holy shit!" loud enough to echo. I reached under the podium and pulled out a black frame. Inside, the check. $1.00, signed, dated, ink faded from history's weight. I held it up, slow and proud, like a warrior raising a flag. Cameras flashed, phones raised, the room electric. "They thought they could erase me," I said, my voice steady. "They forgot I wrote the code and the contract." The crowd roared, a standing ovation before I'd finished. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Lucas." One line. "Board dissolved. You own it all." I grinned, wolfish, unstoppable. The final curiosity hit. A leaked email from my new office hinting at a secret project. Sentinel-2? Something bigger? I didn't say. Let them wonder. I closed with a mic drop. Never underestimate the woman who built an empire from nothing. And never, ever skip the fine print. The crowd surged, clapping, cheering, their energy a tidal wave. I walked off stage, the check still in my hand. The future mine to code. Apex was dust. Nathan and Olivia ghosts. My company, my Sentinel, was reborn, a beacon of resilience fueled by loyalty and rage. And somewhere in a locked drawer, that anonymous investor's check waited. A mystery I'd unravel next. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning.